Now let's create a new file in branches, and let's call it strings. And we're going to now learn how to use strings with branches to create some programs. Okay. So how would we do that? Well, first of all, what I want to do is take in a string from the user, take in words from the user, and use them in Boolean expressions. So let's go ahead and start with, let's see. Okay, let's start with a secret password. Okay, so when you log into your email or you log into your Facebook, what you need to do is enter in your username and your password. Right? So that's something that's a string, and that's something that uses a branch to check whether you entered in the correct password. So how are we going to do that? Let's say we'll make a variable called password, and here we're not going to use input. Okay, say enter your password, because input, if you remember, takes in the input as a number. Right? I want to use a raw input. Raw input takes it in as a string. Okay, so that's what I want to use, and from there I could say if password is equal to a string called secret, then I can print out something, and I could say else. That means it's not secret. I could do something else. Okay. So right here on the do something, I could maybe print out a message and say you have successfully entered the system. Okay, and on the do something else, I could print out and say something like you have not correctly entered the password, or you have not entered the correct password. I think that sounds better. Okay, so how is this going to work? Well, it's going to take in the raw input. Now password is going to equal to a string. That is what I typed in on the keyboard. And if I typed in maybe ASDF, let's say, then it's going to come to the if statement and it's going to say, is ASDF equal to SECRET? And that is not true. So it's not going to do line 4, and it's going to do line 6. Okay. Now let's say I did enter in secret up here, and then this Boolean expression is going to be true, and it's going to print out you successfully entered the system. So let's try that out. Ooh, enter your number. That's not right. So I could stop that. And remember, I need to do control, click on the tab, and run strings. So here, when I enter my password, I'm going to enter an ASDF and hit enter. You have not correctly entered the correct password. I'm going to come in here. I'm going to type in secret, hit enter. You have successfully entered the system. Okay. So this is a way that you can use strings in your Boolean expressions. Let me give you another example. Okay, let's go ahead and type in light, and let's take it in as a raw input. And the raw input I'm going to say is enter a light color. And maybe I can give you what light colors I want you to enter in. And green. Okay, so I want you to either enter in red, yellow, or green. Now I'm going to add my if statement, and I'm going to say if light is equal to red, do something. Else if light is equal to yellow, do something. Else if light is equal to green, do something. And then I can say else. Okay. So what do I want to do here if light is equal to red? Well, then I want to print something out and says stop. Okay. And what do I want to print out if they enter in yellow? Well, I want to print out slow down. And if it's green, I'm going to print out go. I'm going to yell at the person, so I'm going to use exclamation points. And then on my else, I could print out something like you have not entered a correct color. And let's see if this works. I'm going to go ahead and put this password code into a multi-line comment using my single quotes, 3 single quotes, and I'm going to run my program. Oh, and remember this little gray line. Python wants a new line at the end of your program that has no spaces or characters in it. Right? So let's go ahead and run it again. And I'm going to type in red. It says stop. I'm going to type in yellow. It says slow down. I'm going to type in green, and it says go. And then lastly, I'm going to type in bluish, and it says you have not entered the correct color. Okay. So there's a couple things to note here. And the first one is that in an if, elif, else, you can have as many elifs as you would like. You can have 1,000 elifs, right? And it would work the same. It would come in and check, and if it's true, it would execute the body and skip to the end of the if, elif, else block. If it's not true, it's going to check the next Boolean expression, and then the next one. Let's say the third one is true. It's going to execute line 17 and then skip to the end of the elif block. Right? Let's say it comes in and all 3 of these are not true. It's always going to execute the else. So you can have as many elifs as you want. All right? And I like to think of them as checks. You could have as many checks as you want. Right? This is the first check, the second check, the third check. Right? Because you're checking for something. You're checking to see if the light variable is equal to either yellow, red, or green. Another thing that I want you to notice is that we don't need the else. Okay, this would work just fine if we didn't have the else. Okay, let me go ahead and run this again. So I enter in green and it says go. Right? I enter in yellow and it says slow down. Now let's say I enter in bluish. It does nothing. Right? Because this is not true, that's not true, and that's not true. So none of those happen, and it goes to line 18 and it ends our program. Right? So the bottom line is that you can have as many elifs as you want, and the else is optional. You can put it if you need it, or you can remove it if you don't want to have it. Now I'm going to end this, and let's have you create a couple of your own if statements using strings.